The road to Mudshore. Morning came with frost silvering the grass and breath fogging the air. Bones' tail still hung between them like smoke. Ewan was sitting up for the first time in days, weak but clear-eyed. "Winter's coming early," Bones said, checking the boy's bandages with practiced hands. "Good news, the cold keeps infection down. Bad news, we'll freeze before we starve." No one joked. They packed in a hush, each boy walking inside the footprints of last night's story. Bones felt less like a stranger, more like another fugitive who'd somehow fallen in step. 3 days on, they topped a low ridge and saw a farm abandoned to the wind. 2 houses, 3 barns, a sagging palisade, buildings set in the field like broken teeth. "Deserted," George said. "Not a question." "Recently," Bones answered. He pointed with his chin. "Yards still clean of weeds. Maybe a month." Inside the main house, chairs and tables remained. Anything valuable was gone, pots, winter stores, even door hinges pried clean. "They had time to pack," Damien murmured, running his finger along a dustless shelf. Ego ranged the perimeter, restless as a hunting dog. Behind the smaller house, his eyes caught a thin line of white stones, barely there beneath the leaves. They led straight to the palisade. "Over here," he called. What looked like solid wall gave under his hands. A trapdoor, clever work. A narrow tunnel ran under the timber and out into the trees. "Escape route," Bones said, admiring it despite himself. Smart farmers. The path wound into the woods and ended at an oak as wide as a cottage. Ropes hung from its lower limbs, strung with small cloth prayers, little flags whispering in the cold. The trunk's natural hollow held a tiny shrine, incense long burned to ash. "What is this place?" Ewan asked softly, touching one of the prayers. "A very old faith," Bones said. "Older than lords and banners. Country people keep it when times turn hard." Ego had already taken the ropes in hand. He climbed 20 feet and found a hidden platform. Another shrine, several sealed jars. "Food," he called down. "Preserved fruit, dried meat." They left supplies. Curiosity pulled him higher. At the crown, a small lookout had been wedged into the fork of branches. He unwrapped an old spyglass from oilcloth and slid back down, grin quick as a knife. "Someone watched from here," he said, showing the glass. "Watched for what?" "For conscription parties," Bones answered, grim again. "AL doesn't just recruit in camp. He sweeps the countryside, takes bodies, takes grain. These folks saw him coming." "Where did they go?" Damien asked. "South, if they were wise," Bones said, "or deeper into the green, anywhere but here." That night they slept in the horse barn, burrowing into hay. The dogs curled around them, warm stones in a cold world. "We're lucky they left the hay," George said into the dark. "Too heavy to carry," Bones replied. "Not worth burning, small mercies." Dawn came grey and mean. The bitch went low and quiet, a warning rumble. Ewan peered through a crack in the boards. "Company," he whispered. 5 men, hiding in the brush. They held still. Even their breath went careful. An hour later, the watchers slipped away, back the way they'd come. "Scouts," Bones said, "looking for stragglers." They stripped the farm of what was left, some tools, coils of rope, a worn but warm horse blanket. Damien walked on his own now. Slow, stubborn, upright. At the trail's edge, Ego decided, "I'm going after them." "That's stupid," Ewan blurted. "They'll report. I want to know what they saw." Ego was already moving. "George?" George sighed, then followed. The others took the cart and pony and kept pace as best they could. 2 hours later, Ego slowed. Voices drifted back along the path. 5 men on foot, an older fellow in piecemeal armor, 2 farmer soldiers with staves, and 2 conscripts barely older than Damien. "Told you there was nothing there," one farmer grumbled. "Orders are orders," the leader said, tired down to the bone. "Check every farm." "Ho there!" Ego stepped onto the trail, axe low, eyes bright. The men spun, weapons came up. "What's a boy doing alone on the road?" the leader demanded. "Not alone," Ego said. "My friend's behind me. We're heading to Lord Iel's army." "Are you?" the leader drawled, his gaze narrowed. "Then you know all able-bodied men should have reported already." "Where from?" "North," Ego said, and left it there. "Traveling." "You can travel with us," the man said. "Back to the fort. Lord Il will decide if you're telling the truth or running from it. He jerked his chin. Take them. Something cold settled behind Ego's ribs. His answer was simple. I don't think so. Wasn't asking, the leader said. The farmers came forward, staves up, not expecting the boy's choice. Ego's axe cleared the air before they blinked. Run, one conscript yelped, and both boys bolted into the scrub. Stop, the leader shouted. Useless. Ego charged. The first farmer raised his staff. The axe split wood and man alike. The second farmer stumbled back, eyes wide with the new knowledge of death, then turned and fled. Damn you! The leader dragged his sword clear. He had the posture of a man who once trained and now only shouted. They circled. He lunged, overcommitted, and his grip gave. The sword pinwheeled into the brush. Please, he said, backing, I have children. Ego's axe took him in the chest. George arrived as the body fell. His face was young and carefully empty. Together they gathered what could be gathered. Some coins, a decent knife, some hard biscuit, and the rusted sword lost to the trees. We should go, George said quietly. Ego wiped his blade clean and nodded. They ran back toward the cart without speaking. 2 weeks on the trail, the first refugees were a family, husband, wife, 3 children, a grandfather whose feet hurt with every breath. Bones saw them first. Flight writes itself on faces in ways only an old soldier reads. Ho there, he called gently. We mean no harm. The father stepped in front of his brood. We've nothing worth taking. We're not taking, Bones said, sliding tenuously from his pony. Travelers, same as you. Your father's limping, twisted ankle. 3 days ago, the wife said, running. From Ael's conscription? Bones asked. From Ael's mercy, the man said bitterly. You haven't heard? As Bones bound the swollen joint, the man spoke. Their town had opened its gates. The mayor had wept openly as he handed over the keys. Ael had spoken for hours. Freedom from the old lords, fair trade, a farmer's due. Then came the sorting, the man said. Every man who could hold a spear, taken. Every boy over 12, taken. Mayor said it wasn't the agreement. Ael smiled and had him hanged from his own gates. He swallowed hard. Said anyone who'd betray one master would betray another. Bones tied the cloth firm. No charge, he told the wife when her hand shook toward her last coins. But tell us what else you've heard. They had heard plenty. Ael's army swelled daily. Volunteers chasing a promise. Conscripts with no choice. 3 more towns had fallen, each faster than the last. He knows exactly what to promise, the grandfather wheezed. Tells merchants free trade, tells farmers land, tells smiths guild freedom. Lies, but beautiful ones. When they moved on, Ego watched Bones put his foot in the stirrup. Why help them? He asked. They had nothing to give. That's why, Bones said simply. Wasteful, Ego muttered. Strategic, Bones countered. And kind, he added, too soft for Ego to hear. That night, by a tight little fire, Bones showed Ewan how to strip willow bark. The bitch rested her jaw on his knee. His fingers found the place behind her ear without looking. She likes you, Ewan said. Dogs are good judges of character, Bones replied. Then he laughed at himself. Which suggests I may still have some. Why do you do that? Ewan asked. Say something kind, then pull it back. Habit, Bones said after a moment. If I make the joke first, no one can make it sharper. The pups tumbled in. Soon his lap was all fur and paws. He scowled without heat and checked each belly with a healer's hands. This one's got worms, he said. See the swell? We'll mix a purge tomorrow. Ego came back with an armload of wood and found them laughing as a pup tried to chew Bones's stick. Teaching them to be soft, he asked, jaw set. Teaching them to be observant, Bones said mildly. Good soldiers notice small things, even puppies. I don't need lessons from a drunk. No, Bones agreed. You need lessons from someone who survived 20 years of war. Since you don't take them, I teach your brothers. A silence fell, brittle as ice. George broke it, asking about willow bark and the best way to boil it without bitterness. 3 days further, more refugees. Many more. A trickle became a stream headed to the sea. Bones treated what he could and listened for what he couldn't change. A merchant from Westford said Ale took it in a night. The garrison commander joined him, said the Duke abandoned them anyway. A blacksmith from Corran said he burned the nobles' tax ledgers in the square. We cheered. Then he levied contributions to the cause, twice as heavy. A young priest said he quotes scripture like a scholar. Half my order swore he's chosen. Half fled, the rest vanished. Each tale turned the same coin, brilliance on one face, ruthlessness on the other. He's not just a warlord, Bones told their fire. He's a believer and a manipulator. That's worse. You admire him, Ego said. I fear him, Bones said. There's a difference. On the 5th day, Damien climbed onto the pony for the first time. Bones walked a small riding circle, lead rope tight. Relax your shoulders, he coached. The beast feels every knot in you. Easy to say, Damien said through his teeth as the pony sidled. Not easy, Bones said, showing his own white knuckles. He tapped his braced leg. Since this I've hated horses. Learned to hide it. Then why ride? Walking slower, he said, and it hurts. He nudged Damien's boot. Most of life is doing what scares you. The trick is not letting the fear choose for you. Is that why you drink? Ego called from the edge of the circle. Afraid of being sober? Bones's face smoothed to nothing. Something like that. Pathetic. Yes, Bones said. The word cost him something. Ego seemed angrier at the admission than any defense. A week in, Bones cut 2 straight staves and put them in Ewan and Damien's hands. Strength isn't the point, he said, showing grip and stance. Knowing is the point. Know your reach. Know theirs. Most important, know when not to fight. Ego always fights, Damien said, deadpan. How many times has that nearly killed him? Bones asked. A good warrior picks battles. A great one avoids them. Cowards talk, Ego said, not bothering to hide he'd been listening. Survivors, Bones said. You're young, you still think death is a banner. Better than living drunk, Ego said. Bones smiled, sad enough to bend the air. On that, boy, we agree. As they neared the coast, the line of the world changed. Whole villages moved along the roads. Pack animals, carts, babies swaddled against the wind. Bones kept moving among them, a thin man with quick hands and a bag of small mercies. Ael's taken Millbridge, an old woman told him. The Lord resisted. Ael flayed him before his family. Offered the widow a post the next day. She shook her head. She took it. Monster, Ewan whispered. Genius, Bones said grimly. He breaks people entirely. Then he builds them again to his design. That night, Ego came to the fire with his axe across his knees. You talk like you know him, he said. I served in his army, Bones said. You told us stories, Ego said. Pretty ones. Not the true one. Bones took a swallow from his flask. I kept his soldiers alive. Doctors do that. His soldiers, Ego said. The ones burning and taking. Yes. And you were fine with it. I was drunk with it, Bones said. Difference is thin. Not thin enough. Agreed. Ego's hand tightened on the axe. Maybe we don't need you. Maybe you'll sell us when it suits you. Maybe, Bones said. Not today. George stepped between them. Enough, he said, both of you. The damage was done. After that, Ego watched Bones the way a hawk watches a field, waiting for the smallest wrong motion. On the 10th day, they met soldiers on the road. No banners, no orders. Deserters. Running to the coast, one asked, eyeing the cart. Like everyone, Bones said. Dangerous road, the man said. Bandits everywhere. We could offer protection for a fee. We've nothing to pay, George said. That pony's something, the deserter said. So's the cart. Bones's hand drifted to his bag and came back with a small bottle. His voice went flat and clinical. Walk away, he advised. There's nothing here worth dying for. Who said anything about dying, old man? I did, Bones said. I've stitched enough gut wounds to know their songs. Hours of screaming, begging for your mother while your insides become outsides. He tapped the bottle. Or we could test this, slow bleed from every hole, about an hour, messy. The deserters glanced at each other. The wind found a new direction. They turned and ran. You were bluffing, Ego said. Was I? Bones tucked the bottle away. Maybe, maybe not. You're a drunk coward. Yes, Bones said, and I'm alive. Consider what that implies. The bitch leaned into his leg. His hand found her ear, shaking faintly. By the 12th day, Damien rode short stretches without the lead. Bones walked a step away, ready to catch. You're getting better, Bones said. Really? No, Bones said, straight-faced. You ride like a sack of turnips, but a determined sack. That's what matters. Damien laughed despite himself. Will you teach me to fight from horseback? Absolutely not, Bones said. That takes years. I'll teach you to fall without breaking your neck. Much more useful. You really are a coward, Ego called. Yes, Bones said tiredly. We've established it. Then why do they listen to you? Because I'm teaching them to live, Bones snapped, temper showing at last. Which is more than you're doing. When did you last show them anything but how to charge to their death? I protect them. You endanger them with your pride, Bones said. They love you too much to say it. Ego's axe rose without thought. Say that again. Children, George said sharply. Enough. Bones had already lifted his hands. You're right, he said. I'm wrong. Wine makes me cruel. Wine shows who you are, Ego growled. Yes, Bones said. That too. On the 13th day, Ewan brought down a fever in a refugee child with willow tea and patience. The mother sobbed, clutching his hands. You have a gift, Bones told Ewan afterward. Don't waste it like I did. You didn't waste it, Ewan said. You're teaching me. One good deed on one side of the scale, Bones said, taking a careful drink. A lifetime on the other. Maybe you just keep adding to the good, Ewan said. Maybe the scale isn't the point. Bones stared at him. Then for once, his laugh had no edges. Philosophy from a child. Saints, help us. Ego watched. He watched everything. The tiny port of Mudshore. They smelled the sea before they saw it, salt and rot and something like freedom. Mudshore clung to the grey harbour. A couple hundred buildings hunched against the wind like barnacles. Charming, Bones said dryly. It's perfect, Ego said. No one's looking for us here. They rented a cramped house that smelled of fish and mould. Bones paid from a thin purse and kept his hand over it. Ego noticed. Ego noticed everything. That night, while the fire sank to coals, Ego poured through Bones's things. Looking for something? Bones asked without opening his eyes. I don't trust you, Ego said. Good, Bones said, pushing himself upright. Trust is for fools and children, but distrust can be poison too. It'll eat you hollow if you let it. Speaking from experience? Ego asked. Everything I say is from experience, Bones said. The question is whether you'll learn from my mistakes or insist on your own. They stared at each other until George murmured in his sleep and the coals clicked. At first light, Bones put on a bright smile that fooled no one. I'll ask about Passage South, he announced. The tavern's the place. The tavern's the place for drinking, Ego said. Lucky for us, Bones said. It serves both purposes. The week tested them in different ways. Bones haunted the Anchor's Rest, Mudshore's only proper inn. He swore he was chasing captains. He mostly found cups. Each evening he staggered home a little later, smelled a little more of cheap wine. George found purpose. On the first morning, he offered a hand to a merchant with a stack of dried fish. Need help? Can't pay much, the man said. Don't need much, George said. Just something to do. By noon, he was the boy who could carry twice his weight. By sundown, he was Mudshore's errand runner. Quiet, quick, everywhere. It suited him. Moving made him invisible, and invisibility let him listen. Mudshore was full of people who didn't want to be seen. Deserters, smugglers, refugees with too many coins and too few stories. They talked as though a working boy had no ears. That drunk doctor's got those wild boys with him, one fisherman said. You hear about the bounty? Another asked. Big one. Not worth sniffing, the first man said. You hear about Crassick? George's hands stilled on his knot, but his head stayed low. The road warden hunter? Someone scoffed. Just a myth. No myth, the fisherman said. Davos said he heard of him up in Longshore. 7 feet tall, travels alone, hunts those who kill wardens. Never fails to bring back heads. And he's after some boys? A fourth man said. Sounds like a tale told to scare children. So they say, The fisherman shrugged. Guild hired him special. Some boys up north killed 4 wardens, maybe 5. Can't let that stand. George finished his knot and moved on. The story sat cold in his gut. It could be tavern talk. The roads grew stories like lichen, but this one felt true enough to avoid. He kept it to himself. On the 3rd day, delivering parcels to a boarding house, he noticed 2 men who didn't fit. Fishermen's clothes, clean hands, watchful eyes. They asked casual questions about new faces, especially young men traveling together. Ale scouts, George thought, just like Bones had described, closer than anyone wanted. He changed his routes, watched their patterns instead of letting them watch his. By week's middle, he'd counted at least 3. Maybe more. One of them bought Bones drinks at the Anchor's Rest. That scared George, not because Bones would talk, because he might. By the 5th day, George knew Mudshore better than folk who'd grown there, which alleyways ran between the upper town and the docks, which smugglers would take passengers without questions, none for now, which merchants were quietly thinking bounty over conscience, which refugees were deserters looking for a new flag. "You're a good worker," the harbour master grunted, pressing clipped pennies into George's palm. "Smart. Quiet. Could use a boy like you." "Maybe," George said, "if we stay." "Oh, you'll stay," the man said, sure of himself. "Where else you got to go? Ale's got the north. Duke holds the south roads. Winter's coming. Mudshore's the last free port, such as it is." That evening, George counted his coppers. Not much. Enough to buy bread if it came to it. He slipped 2 coins into his shoe. Always good to have coin no one else knew about. Ewan shadowed Bones through the days, prying him from cups toward people who needed hands. At the harbour, a fisherman's hand was angry and red, a line creeping up the forearm. "See that line?" Bones said, steady despite the wine. "Blood poisoning. Another day and he loses the hand. Maybe more." He lanced the wound, cleaned it, wrapped it. "Follow the red lines. That's where the battle is." The fisherman paid 4 coppers. Bones pressed them into Ewan's palm. "Your education fund." Damien walked the edges of the world with the dogs, coves, tidal pools, gull bones. A wrecked hull a mile north with ribs like a whale. Each night he brought back a pocket rock and a story. "Planning to stay?" George asked him. "Planning in case we must," Damien said. Ego took to the woods above town. He trained until his arms shook, axe, then the scavenged sword, then the axe again. He drove himself like a mule. The more Bones drank, the harder Ego swung. On the 4th night, Ego's restraint snapped. He went through Bones's things again, rougher this time. "Looking for something?" George asked from his blanket. "He's hiding money," Ego said, "drinking it while we do without." "And if he is?" George asked. "Then I take it. End his drinking. End his trust," George said. Ego found medicine bottles, a small journal of tight, precise notes. Nothing else. He made enough noise to wake the town. "Find what you wanted?" Bones asked from the dark. "You're a parasite," Ego said, "living off us, giving nothing back." "I'm exactly what I told you I was," Bones said. "A broken drunk trying to get you to Bannock, no more, no less." "We don't need you," Ego said. "Then go without me," Bones said, sitting up. "Take your brothers, find your own boat, I won't stop you." They sat in the dark, with the weight of that between them. "We need passage," George said at last. "He's still our best chance." "Your only chance," Bones corrected. "The boy hates needing anyone, especially me." George thought of the watchers in fishermen's clothes, of Krasik if he was real. He kept those thoughts where they belonged, quiet and useful. On the 6th day, Bones came home with news and the exact swagger of a man who'd lucked into it. "Captain Whale," he said, 21-foot sloop, needs coin." He lowered his voice. "Has twins who've been sick all year." "Might be consumption," Bones told the captain when they met. "I'll need to see them." "Would you?" Whale asked, fingers white around a mug. "We can't pay much." "Take us south," Bones said. "I treat your children, we'll find our price between." "It's dangerous," Whale said. "Storms, pirates." "It's dangerous here," Bones said. They haggled until they reached the middle, half their money, and Bones's care for the twins. When hands clasped, Bones glanced at Ego and let himself smile. "How did you know how much we had?" Ego demanded when they were alone. I'm a drunk, not an idiot, Bones said. You count it every night when you think we sleep. Also, I spent 20 years learning to read people who wanted to hide. You manipulated him. I negotiated, Bones said. He needs hope more than coin. His children need medicine. We need a boat. Everyone gets something. If you can help them, Ego said. Bones's voice went soft. I may be a disappointment in every other way, but I do not fail sick children, not if there's any chance at all. Ego wanted to argue. He didn't. That night, as they packed for a walk to the captain's farm, Ewan asked, Do you think we'll make it to Bannock? We've made it this far, George said. He did not say that watchers had settled in like crows. He did not say the name he'd tucked into his shoe with the coins. Through luck, Ego muttered. Through each other, Damien said. He nodded toward Bones. Even him. Especially him, Ewan said. Ego didn't answer. His hand drifted, as it always did, to the place on his skull where the world went black, and the doctor dragged him back. They slept in the stink of fish and salt and human hope. The bitch padded to Bones's side and lay with her pups piled around her. Even in pretend sleep, his hand found her head. Gentle. George lay awake and counted breaths and quieted thoughts. Tomorrow he would run more errands, learn more names, watch the watchers who thought they were invisible. He would not say Krasik, not yet, maybe not ever if the wind turned in their favor, but the feeling he trusted, the one that had guided him since before he could remember, said their time in Mudshore was ending. They would leave on that boat, or in chains.